Hi everyone and welcome to week 2. I'm going to go through the to-do list for week 2 and give you an idea of what's coming up. Just a reminder, if you haven't already, please make sure to sign up for your NSTA membership and your Learning Center subscription. You will be using the Learning Center this week, and also sign up for your safety course and get started on that. So assignments that are due this week. So you have 3 assignments. One of them is fairly easy, outline for a class demonstration. So I'm going to come back to that one and do that one last because it ties into the unwrapping the standard a little bit. So getting to know your profession. This one is just kind of an overview of what are some of the resources and requirements for science teachers in terms of the state of Oregon and also in terms of national resources. So I am going to have you start exploring like the Department of Education website, look at the National Science Digital Library. I want you to click on assessment, and answer this question about statewide assessments. Look at what science curriculum that the state of Oregon has adopted for 2021. We're 21-22 now for middle and or high school, depending on your grade level. You're also going to explore the National Science Teachers Association. What are the journals? Who are they written for? Who writes in, so pick one of those. Who writes in that journal? What is it about? Who advertises? And then the second part, you're actually going to use the Learning Center and you're going to access some resources about the profession in general. I have created a collection called the Science Profession Collection. So you need to choose 2 of those articles to read, and then you're going to find at least 5 of your own articles that are of interest from your NSTA subscription, and read one of them in depth and then summarize that article in the second part of this assignment. So that's the template that you'll use. If we go on Canvas, you'll see that here under week 2 you have getting to know your profession. If you click on that, you'll find the template linked there and the instructions. So that's the first assignment. The second assignment is unwrapping a standard. So you took a look at the NGSS standards last week, got to know a little bit about them. You took a quiz on it. This week you're actually going to choose a standard and you're going to unwrap that standard using a template that I've provided. So again, if you click on there, you'll see this template. This is what it looks like. So you're going to choose, this is important. So I want you, as best you can, to choose a standard that aligns with where you're placed in your teaching, if you're placed, and the content you'll be teaching around week 8, which is the week of the 15th of November. So you're going to try to find a standard that'll work for that, because you're going to plan a mini unit, 3 lessons that align with the standard, and you're going to hopefully get a chance to teach that in your setting. So the more you can align this with what you're actually doing in the classroom, the easier and less work it's going to be for you. Now, having said that, some of you are not in a position where you know what you're going to be teaching, or your clinical teachers don't know yet, and so do your best to take a good guess and then just go with a standard, and you can practice for what you're going to have to do for your mini lesson. So to unwrap the standard, there are some things I want you to do. So the first thing I want you to do is I want you to paste the standard. Look at the nouns, which are the concepts that students need to learn. Look at the verbs. These are the skills that students need to be able to perform. You're going to actually try to identify the big idea and the essential questions. So I'm going to give you a cheat for this. This is probably the hardest part. I'm going to give you a cheat for a couple parts of this. So under our resources in Canvas, somebody has already done this part. The essential questions have already been outlined for each of the standards. So if you click on that link, you'll find that there are essential questions. They align with both the practices, the cross-cutting concepts, but also with each disciplinary core idea. So if you scroll down to, and you have to go down quite a bit to get to the actual high school ones, you will find that each one has a essential question. So you're going to take the essential question, you're going to put it in your template here, and then just, oops, wrong template. and then just to get the big idea, you're just going to restate it as a statement rather than a question. So that completes these two parts. The last part is the learning target. So you're going to write 3 learning targets, one for each lesson. So remember, you're going to eventually plan a 3-lesson unit based on the standard, and you want at least 1 learning target for each lesson. So we're just going to start out with 1 learning target. So there's also a good cheat for learning targets and how to write those. So if I go to the standard, and I'm just picked a random one. So this is high school physical science 1. Here's the standard. This is what I am going to put in that first box. So to determine what the learning targets are, I can go to this resource on the side on the right. It's the evidence statements. So the evidence statements actually tell me what students should be able to do and accomplish in order to show that they have mastered this standard. And you can see there's a lot. So I'm not going to be able to probably focus on all of these in one 3-lesson unit, but I can focus on maybe one part of this. So for instance, let's say I really want to focus on connections. So students use the periodic table to predict the patterns of behavior of the elements. Okay, students predict the following patterns of properties, and it tells you exactly what students should do. So you can use those as the basis for your learning targets. So a couple of really important things about learning targets. The first one is really pay attention to the verbs you use in the learning targets. They have to be measurable. So if I were to say students must know, that isn't measurable. I can't measure knowing, but I can measure something like students must describe, or students must define, or students must analyze. Those are verbs that can actually be measured. So I don't want to see any verbs like know or understand. Those are too vague and not specific enough. The other thing I'll tell you about learning targets is they should be written in one of 2 forms. Either students will be able to, or I can, and that's a student-friendly version of the same thing. So if I was going to pick a learning target for this standard, I might say, students will be able to identify and describe elements and their arrangement in the periodic table. Okay, so that would be a proper learning target. Okay, so again, these are drafts. We're going to actually share these in class when you come on Saturday and talk about how to begin and get the building blocks for good lessons using this process. So that's the second assignment. So the third, going back to that demonstration. So the way we teach science, according to inquiry-based methods and next generation science standards, is we use phenomenon to engage students in the actual questioning of things and applying science to come up with answers. So I want you to try to find some sort of phenomenon that aligns with your content that you're going to be teaching with that standard. And you're going to do a brief demonstration. It's got to be 15 minutes or less. You're going to actually do the demonstration in class week 3. For this week, I just want you to kind of do a brief outline. What is the demonstration? What are the steps you're going to take to complete the demonstration? And I want you to really think about, how can I make this engaging? So I'll give you an example. If I was going to do a unit on, let's say, buoyancy, something I might do is I might have students experience different items, try seeing if they sink or float, and then determine what are the characteristics that might contribute to an item and whether it sinks or floats. So rather than starting my science lesson, which is the traditional method, by presenting a video or getting up in front of the class and having them read something, or passing out, or having them turn to their textbooks and read a section on something, take notes, do vocabulary, I'm going to start with some science. I'm going to actually present some science, some phenomenon to them that's going to make them go, why did that happen? Or how did that happen? What's making that happen? And so the more interesting, engaging, and kind of like the wow factor, this is the wow factor, like what just happened, right? So try to find something that has some wow factor and still aligns with your content. Lots of sites to consider. Just Googling science phenomenon and your particular like biology or astronomy will give you lots of ideas. And if you're really stuck, that's why I have you do an outline. So post what you get on the outline. This isn't graded. You'll submit it on Canvas, but it'll be more just for me to check in and see how you're doing on that. So those are the 3 assignments for week 2. And if you have any questions, run into any trouble, for instance, like accessing resources on NSTA or getting your subscription set up, please, again, you can easily sign up for office hours using this link, or you can email me and we can set up a different time to meet and chat. I'm available to help you through this. The last thing I'll say is looking towards next week, you're going to have your assignments are going to be due actually Friday night before you come to class on Saturday. So keep that in mind. You're going to be working on a safety project where you're going to do a safety lesson using a template, the 5E template. That has to be completed and turned in. So make sure you look at the week 3 instructions and videos for that information and be prepared to share that on Saturday in class. I think that's it for this week. I will look forward to talking to you again during week 3.